Okay, yo. First of all, channel's doing really well, as you can see. So I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone that has been really, showing their support throughout the channel. Here are some comments right here, recommending that I watch Everlasting Flame from Honkai Impact 3rd. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Everlasting Flames, I think it was called. So yeah, we're just gonna do that. Now, just a fair heads up, it has been raining pretty heavy lately, and these walls are thin, so if you hear some rain happening, that's why. But anyway, yeah, thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel. All the videos are doing pretty well, so again, thank you. And we're just gonna get into this one right here. This is the Japanese dub as well. We'll just hit play. Let's go.
Kiana.
It's a little bit loud.
Bronya, 委員長。
立者の力を持ってないあなたはただの弱者。
彼女たちを離して。
信念だ。何の力もない。
Oh, Jesus! Okay. Okay, alright. First sequence down. Let's go ahead and dissect a few things about this. This is basically what this channel is all about. We're gonna be dissecting the art of this and trying to figure out, like, what's wrong with it, what's not, right? Or just what's really good. So starting from the very beginning, this entire scene is framed as something that is desolate, but also I feel like these hands are a really good way to sort of frame the scenario here, or at least from what I gather about it. From what I know about Honkai Impact 3rd, this is like I know that the character we're seeing here is likely the main character from what I remember, because I played up until like level 16 or something, and I remember getting Raiden Mei or something like that. But either way, that's about the extent of my knowledge with Honkai Impact 3rd. But with this framing, it just feels like, this is a very dark and desolate sort of scenario, where the characters are really at their last legs and trying to reach out for anything that they can grab onto. And having all these hands in this room just like laid out like that, reaching out in different ways, it really puts that into perspective in a way that's still like reasonable for the scene, because you have this primary antagonist that uses these hands for all of the wrongdoings, I guess. But yeah, just really cool. I love the visual composition of this as well, the way that they have it all laid out. Hands are something that are always fun to work with whenever there's a scene with a lot of them, because they allow for so much interesting so much interest and so much such deep levels of depth, I would say. But yeah, great use of volumetrics here, and the framing, also this sort of like octagonal, I don't know how to pronounce that, but like all these, are those octagons? Yeah, I think so. All these octagons just like sort of cascading down to the very center, and that sort of brings your eyes to the very center of the frame, where likely you're gonna see, the character. But that is very bright on second watch. Jesus. What exactly is this frame? Oh, those are the hands. Okay, so the light. Oh, wait. Okay, so this is looking up. And then when the light turns on, this is what we get. Yeah. Okay. So that wasn't looking down, that was looking up. Man. Okay. This is also very interesting composition, and again they have a very good use of environment framing. Like this entire sort of filigree that's in the ceiling is sort of framing these two characters that they want you to center focus on, with all these hands around them. Like, this very much paints the picture that they are, for one, not being there out of, you know, some sort of joy. They're very much tied up and being tortured to some degree. For what reason, I don't know. Probably just to taunt the main character or something before they die. But also, is that what Bronya looks like? Is Bronya the girl with the twin tails? Okay, so without the power of the Herrscher, I don't really know much about what the Herrschers do. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I just know that they're very powerful and they're kind of like the Archons, right? From like Genshin or like... Yeah? Something like that? I don't know. Somebody let me know. Maybe. I'll try to look into it on my own time as well, but I really like just seeing the comments that can break stuff down for me in very short, digestible, sorry. Very short, digestible, sort of like little text posts. That is really helpful. Which, thank you, by the way. Okay. So this right here, oh my god, I paused right at the, ooh, that is, okay, for one, that's really good animation, because whoever did that knows what they're doing in terms of how cloth interacts with twisting limbs. But also, a cool little thing here is that her head is entirely 3D and her body is actually 2D here. Likely what they did is they just had like a layout of her body in 3D that they painted 2D clothes over, and then they can just animate the clothes to move without ever having to actually move the model to twist like that. If they did that, hey, props to them, but they didn't have to, because you don't see her body under the clothes, right? But yeah, this is likely just one big 3D video of her sort of like twitching there, and then they just kind of animate some clothes onto that, and then in post-processing is where the camera actually does this movement where it scoots to the side and you can see her reaction to it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case there. Also this, okay, yeah, this is pretty appropriate, I would say. Whenever you want to have a character that's breaking into frame or breaking a scene, like sort of trying to interrupt something, it's always good to almost have them in the foreground, almost like, you know, to make it sort of almost uncomfortable for the viewer, like how close we are to that character. Now, in some cases, it's actually better to back up the camera and show like how desperate their attempt is, right? If there's a lot of space for them to close in from, then backing the camera out to show the amount of space they have to cover before they you know, interrupt the scene, can really build to the tension and all that. But in this case, we already know where the characters are in relation to each other. They're clearly above her, and she's trying to do something to stop them without being able to actually reach them. So the only way to really do that is to fight through it and try to retaliate, which is pretty cool. I like how this is going so far. Okay, that is awesome. That is awesome. This is where the action really starts, and just like this right here looks like a still shot from an anime, honestly, which is amazing considering that this is a 3D model. Like, this is a 3D model with some little shader settings to give it cell shading and line art. But the fact that they've done it so masterfully, again, like I watched the one that I watched previously, being Because of You, which was just absolutely amazing. But just like seeing what they can do with 3D models in different scenarios as I watch these, it's just awesome. This right here is kind of what I want to talk about, though. Okay, we'll talk about that too. All right, so watching this, right? First of all, beautiful camera work. I love how they handled the camera so far in this sequence, up until the big like flame explosion, right? There's a lot of things to already break down here, so let's just get into it. Here, the strings are entirely 2D, most likely, or they're 3D and just added 3D rendered separately and added in post-processing so that they could add individual glow effects to each string. But I think it's just easier to get it done in 2D in post-processing. That's just my take on it. However, her action here is what I really want to focus on. So first of all, her pose, very dynamic. I love it. You can also see how her body silhouette is something that you probably should pay attention to here, because it's ever prevalent that her legs are a lot of her weight. Like her thighs are literally almost the size of her head, which is, I mean, that's pretty standard for humans, right? But like her compared to her arms, her legs are significantly heavier. So she's using all the force coming from the swing of her legs to sling this sword up and down. I don't know if you can tell just by watching this, but like she's doing this and then this, which is like all of her back and all of her legs are going into that, and it's shown in her action here. And then also following up with this, you see how her hip pivots, right? Her entire pelvis does this like rotation first as her leg swings around the other side. Really cool, by the way. I love the leading and then follow up of that. It's just so cool. Let's just watch it back again so that you can see what I'm talking about. So the pose pauses here, right? As she's in the air, it goes into kind of like slow-mo, and then she slings her hip around and her leg follows, and it's really cool. That is awesome. Also, one last thing. That frame is there for 1 second, and they added 2D smear onto her foot. And that's just enough for 1 second, sorry. That's literally just one frame. That is one frame that will never be shown again, but it's just for that little bit of motion fluidity that you love to see. Also, this is a little combat animation technique to pass the basically the what is it called? Basically, you send the impact through the target before the target actually reacts. And you get a look that's kind of like this, where her foot has already gone past the character's face, past the puppet's face, before the puppet has even, properly reacted to it. Like that right there. So this is the starting of that reaction, right? But it pauses for about 2 frames. 1, 2, boom. And that's just to add more impact, more. It makes it feel like it hit harder. By pausing it for 2 additional frames. Whereas she's been moving on ones the entire time. That puppet has been moving on ones. Suddenly she pauses for 2 frames, and that's what gives it that, oh, that must have hurt. And I mean, literally, her body is just in pieces after that. So wonderful animation work already. We're only like a minute in, and I'm breaking this down and yapping as much as possible. But anyway. Oh, okay, this is really good. This is really good. Oh my god, it gets better. Okay, so, wow. Wow. This is literally, like, this is just a change in camera, and that's just about it. I feel like that puppet next to her probably disappeared, though, throughout the process, which is kind of unfortunate. I would have liked to see that puppet's, like, pieces fall to the ground next to her here, because it is very clear that, like, this puppet is somewhere in front of her, which is also in front of where our camera is right here. So I feel like we should have seen that. But we don't. We do see her hand. Maybe this is part of it? Maybe this, yeah, this is like a foot. Okay, so we do see a little bit of the puppet's piece. Okay, yeah, we do. Never mind. Hey, I take it back. We actually see it. It's fine. But this right here, her pose, just pay attention to this, okay? So if you don't notice, I will walk through it a little bit, but so we're going from her flip, right? Her leg swings around and then her body twists around to meet that, and she's still holding onto that big heavy sword. Keep that in mind, because what is about to happen is as she's landing, you can see she's readying up that sword, right? But a very important thing is, and I love this, I love that they had this little minute detail. Watch her knee on the left side of the screen as it points directly toward her target. Like, this is just like, this is fight choreography 101, kind of. Actually, no, this is like, this is the fight choreography 101, as in like, this is like 4 stages into it. Because it's so, I don't know, it's so simplistic yet so advanced in the way that they frame this perfectly to show, first of all, her recovery frames. This is something that we talk about a lot in game development, in animation as well. After they complete an attack or a motion, what are they doing to recover from that and get ready for their next thing? What she does here, this is just beautiful. Like, this feels like a very grounded recovery to what she just did. Like that kick, that sort of axe kick that swung around and broke a puppet to pieces. Once she lands from that, she's like, okay, and then she gets up to do the next thing, right? But even her posture, everything is indicating like she's using, again, her back and her legs for everything with this sword, because her arms are worth pretty much nothing other than carrying the momentum. Again, like, she leaps off the ground to get her momentum going, and her arms are just out like this, and then she's about to sling it up. Like, oh man, that is awesome. Also, I noticed the smear frames here. Very good, very good. This one right here, you can actually see where the 2D is happening versus the 3D, because there's a slight dark separation line there. I'm not sure if you can see that on the recording, but I'm seeing that with this in like full screen pretty much. But yeah, just really good stuff. Also, standard animation technique, if you have a lot of characters to move, just don't move any of them and move the camera instead. And the focus will be largely on the main character of the frame, you know? Some of these puppets are actually giving the illusion that they're moving, when they're really not. Like, they're kind of just sliding in, but they're not quite doing much else. Like, their feet aren't actually moving much. Some of them are, though. So, I mean, credits to them for showing just, like, the movement of the feet at, like, for what, 6 frames? It's little details like that, but it's good. Again, look at her motion. Look at her motion. She's completely slouched forward, and as she jumps up, boom. Her back is arched, her legs go back, and then she uses that force coming down. Her legs swing forward, her back curls again, and we get this, which is just absolutely, like, it's the only way it makes sense for someone of her size to be swinging a sword this big. She has to put everything into it. This right here is really cool too, because she reaches inside the puppet's mouth and then just twists it around and slams it. That is awesome. That is just purely awesome. I don't know, that's very creative. I've never seen that done in choreo. That's just really cool. I don't know what else to say. I do like the particle work here as well with the shattering. I don't know what they use for the shattering effects here, but pretty cool stuff. Everything just looks and feels very pristine here. Like, you could just pause at pretty much any moment in this video and you get a pretty solid still shot. The only thing is, like, you know, with 3D models, usually the chin looks a little bit wonky, and that's kind of the case here, with where her mouth is in correlation to where her chin is, right? just because, like, if you're down here, likely you're going to be seeing the underside of the jaw more than anything, but you're kind of getting just a full-on chin that's like going down. So that's a little bit weird. I will critique that, but again, this is kind of how 3D anime models work, so it is what it is. You could rig them to actually have the ability to shrink upwards, so that way you can sort of give the illusion of a more realistic looking face, but that is some effort that I think a lot of studios don't really care to go through. Okay, this is really cool, actually. And in my honest opinion, if I had to guess, this was probably done in post-production, I think. So a thing that happens a lot, especially pretty much in any animation production, I would say, is like these sort of scenes where you have a character that's fending off a bunch of, you know, enemies from the center frame and the camera is directly above them. It can be very static, it can be very boring, right? But adding foreground elements is something that helps to sort of, again, dirty up the frame, but also like keep the motion actually showing, because you have a very repetitive flooring that we're looking at. And I think this is something that might have actually been done in post-production with the hands being there. They might have just exported like basically a shot of the camera panning through the hands from above, and then added that on top of this scene because it was too bland. And this is something that happens a lot with animation projects, where they'll have these scenes that are like not storyboarded to look this way, but an animation executive might walk in and be like, this shot could use a little bit of something to like keep it engaging or keep it interesting. So instead of having this empty wide shot of, you know, the character just fending off a bunch of flying puppets, we get to have the hands there as well, and a little bit of particle effects that are like, you know, just at least like, not only are they framing the scene, but they're also showing us where the motion is going, right? Because like the motion is constantly just going up this way, so we actually get this like this progression that's being shown the entire time. And it also does serve to remind us that those characters that she's fighting for are still up there. Okay, this, I want to dissect. Okay, I get it now. I immediately get it. All right, so there's actually a complete inversion of the darks and lights here. So when we go into this bit, watch how you see how all the light area of the scene is at the bottom right corner, and all the dark area of the scene is at the top left. Now watch the impact frame, the very first one, inverted, and there's also a little bit of a shockwave here, and then it reverts, and you can actually see a silhouette of her eye before it goes into an explosion that then leads into the fire, which is just, it's really cool. I love the way this is done, and this is entirely digital, by the way. I can just tell just by looking at it. The lines are way too sharp, way too clean, and way too, it's like, it's digital mess. It's not that it's pristine, because impact frames are not meant to be pristine, but this just looks entirely digital at like really high resolution, and just like, you know, layered out, which is, I mean, it's really cool. It's really cool. I love it. The VFX work here is honestly pretty standard for animation, I would say, but it still serves its purpose, and there's nothing wrong with standard, I would say. Now here I don't exactly understand what happened to her. I don't know if the explosion was intentional from her or not, but I think it was. I just don't know. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was this robot thing. Cause like she got burnt up pretty bad by that, yeah? Holy. That's really good expressiveness, by the way. which I think this might be drawn in 2D. Yeah, I think this actually transitions from 3D to 2D. It does. It actually does. Yeah. It 100% does. So the hands and stuff around her are still 3D, but her face and her hair transition to 2D, as well as like I think that's saliva from her mouth. Yeah. Saliva 2D, her face is 2D, her hair is 2D. And the reason I can tell is that there's a slight wobble in the line art, especially around her nose. Like there's a red line art here, a sort of like orangish red line art to sort of blend it and make it look less 2D. There's no hard black line art like there usually is. But it is red and it is noticeable. I can just see a slight wobble in those lines, like they have a little, between frames they kind of go like this and then go back. So that's a way that you can always sort of tell whether it's 2D or 3D. When those lines start wobbling like that. Wow, this is really cool. Okay, let's not play too much in frame by frame because I haven't seen the rest. I will say that lighting was insane. This is also 2D, and this reminds me a lot of Studio Bones, not gonna lie. Like, the way that, for instance, My Hero Academia does their stone textures, Studio Bones, this is what that looks like, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe some of their animators actually worked on this as well. Because again, a lot of animators actually have multiple places that they work at. They don't just work for one studio, especially the ones that are more established, the ones that are like the lead animators, they actually transition between studios quite a lot. And that's why you get different animation styles for different anime fight scenes and like all that stuff. There's different animators working on it. But yeah, this is gorgeous. Again, that's 2D. Holy shit. Huh. That is probably a Blender grease pencil with a like a 3D object that's made of 2D planes, basically. So if you took a bunch of flat 2D rectangles and then just smoothed out their corners to make them round like this, like a cylinder, then you attach that to basically an entire 3D rig that can do this. You have all these little paper layers basically that just like fold over each other and, you know, look 3D in space. But the reason why I say that is because if you watch her arm here, it's actually kind of clipping into her arm. Like the 2D effects are. And that tells me that this is all done in the 3D space, because they wouldn't have drawn it that way. If you pay attention to the right side of the screen, there's actually like the scribbles are going clean through her wrist right now, which is a composite, or not really compositing, but it's like an animation error, I would say. But yeah, like that's very clearly going clean through her wrist. But it's something that like usually that sort of stuff will slip in a 3D scenario and nobody's really gonna pay attention to it unless someone's pointing it out. Me, sorry. But, you know, it's just like little things like that. I notice it. So this is actually done all in 3D, probably with Blender's grease pencil or something like that, to give it that animated scribble feel. But that's not actually done in 2D, or at least not, it's not done in post-production is what I mean. It's not done in post-production. The effects are done in post-production, but like everything else in terms of like the object itself and the scribble lines around it, that is entirely 3D.
私は諦めない。
Yeah, that's 3D with a bunch of 2D planes, basically. That looks really cool, though. I like the stylistic choice. I'm not really paying too much attention to the narrative here, though, which I probably should.
絶対嫌だ。彼女たちはいつだって
Is it?
諦めない。
Is that who I think it is? Is that who I think it is? I've heard some tales about a character that may or may not be dead in Honkai Impact 3rd who is alive in Honkai Star Rail. You know, just
今は
wondering.
私がすべきことをする番だ。みんなの選択は
That is really cool. Okay, let me just
する番だ。
So she rips free of the
みん
threads
なの選択は間違い
and she breaks the I guess like the illusion, right, of being trapped or feeling like the impending doom. Basically, she's like escaping from that and carving some sort of new outcome out of something that maybe wasn't expected to be altered.
がってないってみんなに教えないと。
Ooh, okay.
あんたの攻
And the music is starting to kick in here as
撃は終
well.
わり。
So, okay. That is very clearly a flame sword. So the explosion from earlier was probably actually from the sword, yeah. But this right here.
間違ってないって。
Okay, so that probably was Himiko, right? Because, like, flame character. I think so, probably.
みんなに教えないと。
This right here is actually it's pretty cool the way that they did this. I don't know the exact details, but using like a sort of sphere object and then just having like a sort of noise tearing effect and then just outlining it with a little bit of like what is it called? It's not really edge detection. This is a different thing. They may have actually manually drawn a mask around the tearing, but I don't think that they did. It's probably something that they did in the object's like shader properties, I would say. But either way, these rainbow flares look gorgeous, and this entire scene looks very elegant just using the lighting that they chose for this. Like this is where you can make a distinction between a professional studio and a junior indie project. Is just their use of lighting and composition, like having all those dolls in the background be completely lit and overexposed, and then having the ones in the foreground only slightly overexposed at like the corners or like the sides, right? But for the majority of this, they're sort of blocking out the frame and really adding a lot of depth into it, which I can really appreciate. And even this, as the camera sort of backs out and shows more, they've also rotated the characters, or they've also rotated the puppets here to really like, everything is sort of telling you that the explosion is going out, which is just, I don't know, it's really cool. There's a lot of shape language stuff that's happening here and a lot of really good use of color. But I love it. And then that rainbow flare brings our attention back to the sword as we swing in.
何
それなら私の番だ。文句ある。
Okay. I have to pause here. Sorry, I have to pause here. That was really cool. Man, that is really cool. Okay. Ah, that is awesome. That is awesome. This is probably some of the best action stuff I've seen in a while. At least for close quarters. And because of you, there was a lot of close quarter stuff, but it was mostly Elysia handling like flying objects, right? But this is like, this is where you really get to see a character flipping around and beating up a bunch of other characters and whatnot. But this right here is just beautiful action work. Like just the way her legs lead around and then her hair sort of swoops to follows. It's just, it's so cool. Also, again, we have a 2-frame pause to sort of like, you know, bring things together. She's on ones until this happens. And that just emphasizes the speed at which she's about to fly through the camera's, you know, perspective. Which is really cool. I love that. I love these little smear frames that really, like, it adds so much to it. And also, this is an animator's wallpaper. Some animator out there has this as their wallpaper. I refuse to believe that they don't. Okay? Because this is just really cool. Man, I love that slide, that sort of slide impact where it's like that. That is, I don't know how else to explain it. It's just great. It's just great. Ooh. Okay. Man, whoever did the 2D VFX on that, that is very clean. That is very clean. Is it particularly, like, you know, terribly difficult to do that? I wouldn't say so, but it's just, that's wonderfully done, and you can't deny that. I love how they do this. I love how they do this. This bit right here, I think this might actually be 3D. The main reason why I think this is 3D in comparison to the other one, which I felt was 2D, is because, what the hell? There's a bug just flying around my screen. What the fuck? Okay. It's gone now. I can't find it. But if I do, you'll know, because I'll likely try to kill it. Anyway. The reason why I think this might be 3D is because of... Got it. The hell? Stop landing on my screen, bro. The reason why I think this might be 3D, I keep getting fucking interrupted by a fucking bug that's dead now, is because of the teeth. I know that may be strange, but looking at the teeth is something that can be used to sort of discern whether or not something is 3D in some cases. And with this one, okay, so there's shade, which is kind of the tell. The way that 2D shade is done is a little bit different than the way that it's done here, at least in my opinion. It seems to be different layers, and they're like scooting rather than it being animated by hand. This is completely on ones, which I don't think anybody would want to put that time in, but also, unless they have an insane amount of, you know, level of detail and that's what they wanted to do, the teeth actually correspond to being moved on ones. Which is just, I don't know, I wouldn't expect that from 2D animation, and especially not at the quality that it's at, so I'm gonna say this is probably 3D. If it's 2D, that is impressive, honestly. Cause yeah, I mean, I don't really see any line wobble like the one that I described before. This is very smooth, it's all on ones, it's perfectly composited. If they actually did this 2D, hats off. Okay. So Bronya. Okay, I refuse to believe that nobody from Studio Bones worked on this, because that explosion was just so... that was just so Studio Bones. Like this right here, along with the styling of like the crumbled environment that we saw when we had the close-up of her eye, it has to be Studio Bones. It has to be someone who worked on My Hero Academia for a very long time. Okay, that's just really cool. The way that the room sort of falls apart and then it breaks apart to actually enter. Okay, all right. So this right here, honestly, I would have had some of the smoke and mist kind of like coming up, like billowing up toward the camera. I think that would have been really cool for depth purposes. But this does look like something out of an art book. This looks really good. I don't know. I don't have any particular like criticisms about that. That's just really good. Another really good thing that they did was showing some of the pillars in the foreground and then having them lift out of the foreground. It's just a nice symbol of motion to sort of show where everything's going and how it's gonna lay out. It also feels cool that way. Okay.
私たちはここで止まったりしない。
あなたたちの理想は実現しない。だって世界は最初から美しくないんだから。違う。
Oh my god! Okay. Wow.
美しくないのは当たり前。でも諦めちゃダメだって。世界はそんなにひどくないって教えてくれる人がいた。私は彼女たちを、彼女たちが愛する全てを愛してる。この剣は私たちをつないで真っ暗な空を燃やし尽くし、光をより彼方へ届ける。これが私とみんなの帰り道だから。
That gave me chills. Wow. As someone who's never played the game up to this point, I've been told that these are actually in-game like cutscenes, or at least they're meant to be. As someone who's never played the game to experience what it's like seeing all those characters, you know, behind her and like pushing through with her, that still gave me chills. So that's like A+ on the screen. It is Himiko. That is gorgeous. Okay, all right. There's a lot. Oh my god, there's so much to go over here. I don't know if I have enough time to really get into it. But okay, let's try to get through this, okay? Let's try to get through this. So, one thing that I really liked is how they did the feathers here. I just really like it. That's all I wanted to say. It's just really cool. Like the little ball of feathers up here. Where is it? There it is. That's just really cool. I don't know. That's awesome stylization. I love it. And it's something that I've never seen before. So yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. That's pretty cool. Very good particle work, I would say. I've worked with things like this before, actually, but in an editing software. This is more so done in 3D, I would say, and then the editing stuff is like added underneath, in between, and on top, but it is just really cool. That is also a beautiful shot that could be used as like a phone wallpaper or something. I love that. Okay. So, a fun fact here. Probably what they did for this effect in 3D is just made it so that her rig could actually just green screen those parts out with a black line. And then they chroma key out the green because nothing else on her is green like that, right? So it would be the perfect color to use. There is magenta on her, so they wouldn't use a magenta screen or a blue screen because her eye is blue, unless they wanted to manually mask that out, but then you also have her suit that interacts with the blue atmosphere. So green is going to work here. And what they likely did was probably they had 2 different layers. So they probably worked on 3D first, just her character, and then, you know, just her base model, nothing on top of it. And then in sort of like a retrospective sort of thing, or not really retrospective, but like they just go back in, they have the exact same motion, but with most of her body hidden, and this main sort of focus being the gauntlets that are on her hands, and the glow that sort of carries out throughout the sword, I would say. And that's sort of like a green screen thing with like only black lines, basically. That's what I would assume, because that just makes masking so much easier on the end of the editors. So all they would need to do is just chroma key it out, layer in that pink background, and then invert the black to white. And then you get this. And it saves a lot of time, if they did it that way. Also, I love that her hair goes into a high ponytail here. That's just great. I love high ponytails. Okay, that's a little that's a subtle thing that they did in the VFX, which I can really appreciate. And again, like doing this frame by frame, you can really see how rough it actually is versus what we're seeing. What we're seeing is something that is so beautiful and so fluent and amazing. But when you're doing it frame by frame, it's like you're kind of doing a disservice to it, honestly, which I hate to do, but it's kind of my job here. Anyway, I love the little sparks that are like flying off of the flame. It's just awesome. I love it. And then the ring sort of ignites around it, and it goes into that awesome spiral of flame. I love it. The music here is awesome too. Now this is where shit goes crazy. Because this explosion is possibly the most beautiful explosion I have ever seen in the entirety of me just looking at anime stuff, man. It's just, I don't know, this is like peak of explosion VFX right here. Oh my god, okay. There's so much. I love the impact frames. And again, we have the inverting thing going on, where the brightest part is the darkest part for a second, and then it goes back to sort of how it's supposed to be, and it brings our attention center frame, closing in on this. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's just look at this color composition and really appreciate that, man. Just oh my god. Whoever handled the color for this is insane. You're actually clinically insane, and I hope you get better soon in the best way. In the best way. That is just awesome. That is awesome. Also, the goo, sort of like smoky goo that comes out of this, or is that? I don't think that's blood, is it? Do these machines bleed? I don't think they bleed. Surely not. I don't know, but I love that there are like shadows sort of being cast on the outside of it. You can see the highlights on the inner tears of like the goo or whatever this is. Man, I love this. I love this. The way the flame rages out of it as well, like, that's beautiful. And this is something that I want to talk about as well. Okay. Wow, that is beautiful. That is a wallpaper. Again, there's so many wallpapers in this animated short. Oh, that is amazing. Oh, wow. I think I just shit my pants. Possibly even cum. Anyway. This is absolutely... Oh, wait a minute. Okay, this is gorgeous. This is gorgeous in every single way, don't get me wrong. But I noticed a little bit of an error, and I love seeing these. I love seeing little errors. So, the red tassels behind her shoulder pads, if she's wearing any, I don't know, behind her shoulders. Watch as they pop forward. Which I don't think was intentional. They might have actually been placed into the 3D scene, and as she's lifting her arms up, she might be like slightly floating back a little bit. So like she would be right here, the 2D compositing would be back here, like, you know, flailing around, and she would slowly like kind of scoot back, and it would pop through her like that. That's what I think happened here. Just watch. You see that? How it popped forward and then pops back? That is what we call frame popping, and it's something that is, it happens, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I don't know, I love seeing little errors like that because it reminds me of how human the production is behind these sorts of things. And it happens again right here. Okay, perfect example. The 2D effects are behind her, and then next frame, boom, they're kind of in front of her, which just, it's a tiny little error, okay? But like, I'm not nitpicking and saying it's bad. It's just, that's fun to see. And then it kind of pops back into place, I think. Yeah. That's really cool though. I love that. Here I actually noticed something as well. Okay, this right here. It's not just her being cool. I can almost guarantee you that much. Because, okay, you have this right here, right? Already a beautiful frame. Already beautiful. But the fact they didn't have to do this, and I think that they did it deliberately, possibly because of an animation executive, I would say. But in this scene where she flies in, you see all that dark purple background, right? That's a lot of negative space, as we like to call it in the art industry, where it's basically just space that you're not doing anything with, and it sort of detracts from the main focus. Because of how much it contrasts with what you have here, all these light colors, the dark is what your eyes are gonna go to. But what they did here is they brought in that giant golden tentacle right above her head, and they brought her framing down, which it just brings your eyes way more to her, because now there's all this bright at the top of the screen and all the dark is at the bottom, and now she is what sticks out of that dark. So really cool framing with what they did there. And it even carries out throughout the rest of this. It's just breaking that negative space into tinier segments so that we can actually focus on her. Okay, that 3D effect, listen, I'm not a 3D artist, okay? I'm not a 3D rigger. I kind of did a little bit of both, but like not to any professional level. I've never done it for a studio, really. It's always been for my own personal projects, but this is just, that's really cool. I don't know, that's a really cool, like, deformation type thing. I love it. These 2D effects are killing it, by the way, and they do very much, they're so rough. I love the way that they're done. It looks like this is a smooth G-pen rather than like some of the things we noticed before were like rough G-pen and stuff like that, but this is smooth. This is entirely smooth G-pen, and it looks like something that you could actually draw in like Clip Studio Paint or something. It's just, I don't know, it's just really cool. Ooh. Ooh, okay, those are entirely digital impact frames. Oh, here we go. Okay, here we go. Rough G-pen. This is what rough G-pen looks like. All these little bumps and divots in the strokes of the pen. That's what that looks like versus what you would see here, which is smooth G-pen. A lot less bumps and ridges, but all of that is very deliberate to give it that flame feel. Like anything that's rigid here is intentionally done to make it feel like flame. It actually looks like they blended the smooth G-pen with rough G-pen at this bit. At least that's what it oh my god, that is a beautiful frame to pause on. Wow. Let me go back real quick. Again, just to I know I talked about how I probably don't have enough time for this, but I don't care. So this entirely smooth G-pen, I would argue. This also probably smooth G-pen. This, not all smooth G-pen. I can actually see some ridges, even in the bits that are smeared with a smear brush. I can still tell some of this is rough G-pen. And then this right here, mostly smooth. This one has some rough. This one has more rough. And to a degree that it's not even entirely filled in. They probably used a bucket fill tool to get some of the yellows in there. And I can actually see some of the darker lines between the yellow and the orange where the bucket tool just didn't quite work. But it just works for this. I mean, you don't really see that very long. It's one frame. Also, 3D compositing error that I see inside of the object here, the big spiraling, spiky thing. There's actually some compositing errors in there. But, you know, it's stuff that you really don't care to pay attention to. It's just that really dark ambient occlusion light that's right above her head here is probably not gonna be there when there's a flaming sword approaching it. Just my opinion is probably not gonna really be there. But you know, beautiful impact frames. We have a lot of that invert and then revert type thing going on, which I've broken down multiple times, so we don't really have to go over it again. But those impact frames are gorgeous. Okay, just like this is entirely digital, and I can tell by the way that it's painted, but it is beautiful. Not a single one of these is traditional, from what I can tell. These are all digital. Really bold choice of colors. I don't think I've ever seen green and dark red, dark green and dark red, like flame explosion before. But this is, I mean, it still works, it's still beautiful. I think they did a great job. That is a beautiful shot. That is just amazing. I don't know, man. The 2D effects on this, all of it is just gorgeous. Ooh. Okay, these are actually still images for a good bit. So we have 1 still image, 2 still image, 3, 4, and then it animates after the 4th one, which is pretty cool. Also, this mega shield that the antagonist like puts up, and then it just gets caved in layer by layer. I love that. Look at that. That is awesome. Can we actually get a frame by frame of that? Oh! Oh my god. That is so clean for almost no reason. Like, nobody's gonna notice this unless they're doing frame by frames. This is awesome. Man. Okay. Look at that. Look at that. The way that it caves in. So this is the maximum extension of it, and then it just boom, boom, boom. Ah! So Himiko is already dead by this point, huh? Is this what? Okay, Everlasting Flames, it makes sense. So this is probably like this takes place after Himiko dies, I would assume. Like as a genuine plot point to continue whatever Himiko's story was in Honkai Impact 3rd. To like give her a proper send off, I would assume. God, that is so cool. The flaming hair. Oh, that is so good. And that is just, man, okay, yeah. This feels like an emotional send-off to the character of Himiko. That's what I think. And this is the most replayed as well. I wonder why. The music kicks in, we get to see Himiko here. Like that expression of determination sort of breaks as she's like, holy shit. Oh, it's such a gentle smile as well. That is such a gentle smile. As she's just like... It's kind of like a thank you kind of nod. Like, you know? That sort of thing. I love that. That is beautiful. Man, that is gorgeous. That is so pretty. That is so... Wait a minute. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. They did even some like minute details that nobody really would have noticed is the reflection of the city over there in the water. The buildings in that reflection actually do reflect light off of the sky, which is it didn't need to happen. Not in the reflection. I could see like on the actual like land layer of it, but they actually did it in the reflection, like in the water reflection. They added that light bounce, which they didn't have to, but they did. Okay. That's the end of it. That's the end of it. Wow. And there's no end credits. Yeah, oh my god, it's raining now as well. What a fitting event to close out this watch session. Man, I've been dissecting this for an entire hour, which is actually, yeah, that's much longer than I thought I would. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. My general thoughts on this, again, another masterwork. Definitely go follow me on everything that has been showing at the top of the screen here. Please don't ignore it. I stream, I do a bunch of other stuff. I'm starting a new YouTube series where I play Sekiro as well, so hopefully that's gonna go well. We'll see. The first video actually did pretty well. It hit like 200 views, but not a whole lot of people are actually caring about it, I think, yet. So kind of have to, you know, work that into it, but I really appreciate all the support that's been shown on the channel anyway. We're close to 200 subscribers already, which is just, I don't know, it's cool. I didn't expect this channel to be doing as well as it has been doing, but people have been really enjoying the analysis videos, so I'm going to be making more of these, because I really enjoy making them as well. Anyway, that is all from me today. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Have a good time zone. Definitely go check out the links in the description. And of course, if you haven't watched the original video, what are you doing? Go watch it, because I just paused like a billion times. 6 minutes of animation broken down in an entire hour. So, you know, if you want to go appreciate that for yourself, definitely go check it out. The link will be in the description. Start some discussions in the comments and let me know what's going on. I don't know, even if it's just about your day or how much you enjoyed the video. Let me know. All right. I will see you on the next one, which will probably be in a few days because we got a lot of recommendations. Bye bye.